Just a drop of this substance will stop aging mechanisms without any harm to my body.
Experts have been researching unique animal genes to allow us to live longer. How will this technology change life in 50 years? Do you want to see it right now?
Death is liberating. It's questionably the most exciting part of life. You get to lay there in your comfy hospital bed and spend your last waking moments being cared for by some Jamaican lady who's all barely even interested in whether you live or die because it's the penultimate hour of her 14-hour shift. You get to eat hospital meals that look like this and wash it down with your little sun cup. Needless to say, I can't freaking wait to die, and I'm serious when I say that. And it doesn't mean I'm suicidal, it just means I'm not necessarily opposed to death.
How could you have done this? How could you have committed suicide?
If you want to know the truth, I and many other people I know want to die before it's unavoidable, and I've spent the last few weeks watching just about every video tagged Digital Immortality I could possibly find with the YouTube search feature. And just about every video I watched only talked about the scientific implications and logistics of how we'll achieve such immortality.
Why does death have to be a constant of life? Think about it. We're going to have a library of souls. You go to the library and you'll talk to Winston Churchill.
And to quickly boil it down, it seems as though it's going to happen soon, and the only lingering question proposed is how it will be achieved, scientifically or technologically. If you clicked on this video anticipating a bunch of scientific mumbo-jumbo, then I regret to inform you you're in the wrong place, cause I'm not interested in any of that. You must remember this video is brought to you by the same lunatic who made Neuralink, Where Will All the Monkeys Go? In all actuality, I'm more of a philosophical bastard, and I've laid awake many a night pondering exactly how the future is most likely gonna suck, and I have vivid fantasies about just how exactly everything like this could go wrong.
Michio Kaku, welcome back.
We're going to have a library of souls.
If you're interested in science or optimism, then go watch Jake Tran, I don't know what to tell you. In this video, I will try to shed light on some of the societal and philosophical impacts digital or scientific immortality will most likely have on humanity. So to kick us off, I'm going to start with what I consider to potentially be the most terrifying scenario, which is if some evil dictator gained power prior to the moment death becomes obsolete or unachievable, and reigns supreme over the human race in the form of some sort of omniscient Ivan the Terrible. This is the Digital Dystopia, the consequences of digital immortality. Let's move on to part 1, I've got the power. Alright, so let's take Korea. I use North Korea as an example constantly to explain how bad things can get, because it's the closest thing to hell on earth as you can get. The people are starving, they blare creepy music every morning from a speaker to remind their people that they're living in a hellscape. It's so bad in North Korea that their propaganda is showing a lady working at a grocery store smiling going, yeah, we totally have food. This 100% is a grocery store that people come to. And the reporter is all like, yep, you heard it from her. There are people. People are totally eating in this country. Not only are conditions physically bad, but their will is completely shattered as well. Every time they show a North Korean soldier on TV, he can't even not cry when the cameras are on him. So this could happen everywhere. It could happen anywhere. So when a North Korean tries to escape, he's probably weighed out the consequences in his mind and thinks, well, if I fail, they'll probably at least shoot me. So when an evil dictator comes into power in the modern day, imagine if that bastard got his hands on some science or technology that would make the comforting and liberating aspects of death disappear. And at what point do we not consider that immortality on Earth becomes indistinguishable from hell?
We have so much more to talk about. Please come back because I love this subject.
We're going to have a library of souls.
So in my humble opinion, this is an aspect of digital immortality that we need to all have a serious discussion about. During my research for these videos, I end up watching a lot of Michio Kaku, and he always sounds so excited about living forever.
When they live longer, our prosperous don't have that many kids.
We have so much more to talk about.
Just because you're animated and talk like Bill Nye doesn't make the subject any less terrifying. Us physicists have predicted that in the future, we are going to kidnap your wife, whose body is made up of carbon and neurons, and we are going to tie her to a board. As she struggles to get away, we will tie her hands up with fasteners, and thus we will let the neighborhood men, sometimes referred to as a local community, to run a train on her, and you will be made to watch.
Make it stop!
So whether people are aware of it or not, the existential ticking clock is inadvertently driving us in ways we're not even necessarily aware of.
This is not good. People should not work this hard. They should not do this.
It drives great innovators because they're all too aware that life is short, so in turn it pushes them to do as much as they can before they die, and thus the world continues to turn. I was at a wedding about a year ago, and I noticed everyone, including myself, were hitting on the girls whose job it was to give everyone alcohol. And I asked the girls if it was a common occurrence for that to happen, and they told me that weddings make people act erratically, mainly because they realize they're in their 30s and still living alone in an apartment. If life had no expiration date, the driving force to make people want to tick off things in their bucket list would most likely disappear, and who knows if that's a good or a bad thing. But it remains clear that life as we formerly knew it would change, and when I say indefinitely, I mean indefinitely, literally. Religion would no longer have any point, which would suck even if you're an atheist, because it's often the driving force that causes a lot of people to live their life according to a moral code, which therefore affects everyone else negatively, and I don't care if that statement is controversial to agnostics. When the world simultaneously loses purpose and meaning, it's safe to say that the consequences might be less than ideal in ways that we can't even visualize yet because it's yet to happen. What's even worse is that the way things are seeming to pan out lately worldwide aren't suggesting that the future will be utopian at all. In fact, it's quite the opposite. The ultra-rich seem to practically have a chokehold on the entire planet, and the response from the overall people has been underwhelming and pathetic, which has demonstrated, to me at least, that sheepish idiots will go along with whatever their stupid black screen tells them to do, so I've practically lost all hope in any sort of situation in which the people fight back against any sort of future authoritarian takeover. If some guy came on the news tomorrow and said all men have to now dip their balls into a quarter cup of dollar store perfume before they leave the house, not only would people do it, but they'd argue about it on Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg would silence the dissenters, and hashtag I don't even mind the smell of ball scent mixed with perfume would trend on Twitter the next day. There have been promises that the new world will be some sort of ultra-progressive sustainable fairy tale, and in that case, living forever may be feasible, but there's a 50% chance that's not gonna happen.
I'm trying to trick you.
I understand that this video is implying that digital immortality won't be optional, but a lot of things that used to be optional are no longer so. So I guess the point of this video was to point out that when such a complex and precious thing as life is taken into the hands of whoever happens to have gained power in the cutthroat tech industry, approach it with caution and at least a little bit of skepticism. While researching this video, I read countless articles of some scientists saying immortality is impossible, and then there were some saying it's inevitable, and people wonder why it's become commonplace to mistrust science. So to wrap this video up, I'd like to first urge you to remember that you can take comfort in the fact that we still have a coming period at the end of our sentences. At least I do. Life is precious, and as a kid I never fully understood the concept of mad scientists, but I do now. Death is so terribly final, while unfortunately, life is full of possibilities.